Hey everyone, this is John Puritz. Welcome to the Man Up Already podcast. This show is dedicated to each of us being better in all areas of our lives, mentally, spiritually, physically, and relationally. We want to help you be a better you because when you man up already, the world around you is greatly impacted. Here on the podcast, we don't believe you're an accident. We believe each of us is created for purpose, and this show is dedicated to helping you discover and live out that purpose. Again, welcome to the show, and let's check out another great episode. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Man Up Already podcast. And as always, right, super excited to have you here and bring you another great episode. Today, we're going to have an incredible and engaging conversation with a very unique individual, someone I don't think we've had the like on the Man Up Already podcast, and I'm really pumped to have him on as a guest and to spend a little time with him. So with that, let me read the notes that I have. Our guest is the CEO and co-founder of the Shepherd's Studios. He's a filmmaker. He is LA Weekly's top 10 entrepreneurs, one of them for 2023. He's been on multiple podcasts. He's a motivational speaker and an advisor to entrepreneurs and clients. He's done so much, far too much for me to just go into in this interview or in this intro. I'm going to let him talk about a lot of the things that he's done in the interview, but I'm super pumped to have as our guest on the Man Up Already podcast. Please welcome Jefferson Keith Langley. All right, Jefferson, good to have you, bro. Excited to have you on the podcast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate it, brother.
Yeah. I was, it's funny because I'm like, all right, what do I say, right, to intro you? Because, there's just so much, right? The body of work that you've done is quite impressive. So I want to start with, what is Shepherd's Studios? Let's start there.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. And I appreciate the glowing words. Yeah. So the Shepherd Studios is basically a 360 perspective IP transmedia studio, right? So we essentially, I love the word bespoke. So I've been really banging that drum with the team, this kind of bespoke, one of a kind, tailor-made Rolls Royce of an IP transmedia studio that makes products off of IPs across multiple platforms. So Star Wars is obviously the granddaddy of all transmedia IPs. The difference with us is we're not in a linear space, so we don't think of things linearly, one after another. We think of simultaneous, congruent, where the cross-pollination of things and staggering the timelines based on the release of things, because some things take longer than other things, even, we're producing movies and TV, of course, and tech stuff, but, the different timelines on those things is so drastically different that, we see that as an opportunity where people are leaving money and meat on the table. And for creators, we back creators, we're pro creators. All of our deals are leaning towards the creators. We're creators. We just chose to do something about the landscape ourselves rather than, letting these studios kind of drive the initiative as they've done for so long.
Yeah, I really want to touch on that because it's something that I think is so cool and so important today.
Yeah.
But just for our audience, to give some, credibility or just for them to connect with some of the things that you've done, maybe share with our audience, hey, Jefferson's work because this show or this thing, whatever.
Yeah, what have I done? Yeah. So, I've done quite a bit I'm more of an entrepreneurial spirit, so I've done, I've built cafes out, outside of entertainment. I helped build an oil and gas company that builds pipeline parts for underwater, subsea. It's so that company is called Titan Subsea Innovations. I started that with the CEO and founder, helped him build the model, raise the money and everything. I ran a fund. I've done quite a bit. The last movie I did was in 2012, before I got into some of these other businesses with Simon Baker from The Mentalist. He was the lead actor in it. It's called Not Forgotten.
Mm.
Paz Vega was in it, Claire Forlani. I've done campaigns for Mercedes, Nike as a creative, writing campaigns. I came up with a worldwide campaign for Nike, for Mercedes, based around their Roadster car that they wanted an immersive, interactive experience. So I came up with this idea where the user would put in all their information in their own driver's license picture and all this stuff. And so when it would cut to that angle, it would put your picture in there. So like you were in the story. Anytime it dealt with the co-star and the passenger in the Roadster, because it was a story about a girl on the run. She had stolen this car and she picked up a hitchhiker, and you're the hitchhiker. So I've done that. I've won music video awards for big bands like Crystal Method. I got flown out to New York by MTV. I was in one of their first reality shows ever called Homegrown Videos, about discovering music video directors. I won that competition. The show didn't end up getting picked up because of the monetization of it, because they'd have to put you up and have to keep redoing it and stuff. So they ended up making The Real World right after that, if people are old enough to know The Real World.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
you were young. You were young too when that happened.
Yeah, maybe I'm dating myself, right? But people are going, how old is this guy? How did he do all this? So, I mean, I've owned semi-pro soccer teams here in America, here in Southern California. That was sponsored by Land Rover Jaguar. I pitched Land Rover Jaguar, and they ended up backing us. And I'm obviously a sports fan, so that was a big accomplishment. So I've done quite a bit of stuff in different areas. So
yeah.
My focus hasn't always been movies, TV. But my partners at our company have done Entourage, SEAL Team, The Last Ship. Some of the biggest games in the world that if I name them, you'd go, oh, I know. Warcraft. I mean, all this kind of stuff.
Very cool.
And so we're just coming together as like a brain trust. All have the same vision of IPs are the new future.
Well, yeah, and that's what I wanted to dive into. I talk a lot about being a Gen Xer because we've just seen so much.
Yeah.
We saw the antenna go to cable, and then MTV and all that stuff, and then the computer revolution and how things. I mean, Gen X has seen the acceleration of technology over our lifetime. Right, it gets faster and faster and smaller. And I was talking to a friend the other day that I think yes, the internet was the internet, which was probably one of the greatest inventions of our lifetime.
Yeah.
But everything you're talking about, I personally believe can get traced all the way back to Napster.
100%.
Right? Like the ability to share, right? And how that just changed everything, right? And so many of our listeners are probably like, what the heck is Napster? Go look it up, right? It broke the entire industry, which is what you're talking about. And now right here, we can have a podcast that I'm doing in my office when I want to, without permission or whatever, because the technology is there and all the things that you're talking about in an IP space.
Yeah.
I just think there's so much opportunity out there for like you said, creative minds, what you can do, right? You're not limited. I just find that incredibly powerful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that guy, he was based in LA, right? And I was lucky enough to, be cross paths with him through mutual friends and stuff. And you're absolutely right. He broke the system because now you can deploy content across the internet and not just expanded, YouTube and,
right.
It all came after that, so, kudos to him. Of course, he's got some enemies, people saying, sharing stuff for free, so they learned to monetize it, right? And they learned to share the monetization and saying, okay, we're going to do something similar to him. He just didn't share, right? So now it's, profit participation through Spotify and all this. I mean, it's incredible what happened with technology, and it's shifting again, and those who can stay with it are going to flourish.
So let's back up a little bit. Share a little bit of your story. How did you, what's the, I love talking to entrepreneurs because, especially, and I'm someone a little bit more mature and down the road, right? Like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
there probably was a time, like, entrepreneurship today is very different than, the way it
Also,
was back in the 80s and the 90s and all
oh,
of that. But somewhere along the way you go, I got to go left when everybody's going right, or everybody's going this direction, but there's a gut feeling, there's this moment of something's got to shift, and then little wins stack, and then you create momentum. So I just would love the story of how Jefferson became where you are, now.
yeah, man. Yeah. So, the short version is I grew up in a small town in Texas, at the time. Now it's obviously expanded, but um, I always had that, I wouldn't say rebellious, but more of a maverick, I guess, kind of mindset. It's why, always asking why. Why does it have to be that way? Because it's the way it's always been done.
Hmm.
Okay, well, that's fine. So as I was growing up, I had a little bit of a, tough childhood in the sense that, I had a very overbearing parent who, you know, had his own issues and his own things that he was dealing with. And, I'm sure parenting is not easy, but at the same time, you're responsible for this child. And so what happened is that I tended to use my achievement to protect myself in a way, right? And so as I started learning that, hey man, it's nice to achieve, people really love you and get a lot of attention, and people tend to want to help because you're achieving, and,
Mm.
all that kind of stuff. And so anything that could keep me out of the darkness of that relationship with, the abuse and the verbal, and all that kind of stuff, the browbeating and picking at me, and, winning MVP of the state tournament wasn't enough because I missed a goal or I missed a shot that could have just been that much better. And so what happened is as I used that achievement to stand out and realizing that, like, hey man, I like getting accolades. It felt good. I started looking at it as a teenager of a way to kind of differentiate myself. And at the time, I'm not going, I'm an entrepreneur and it's my USP. I mean, you're just going, I just need to be different. And then looking like this and growing up in Texas is not easy. The
Mm.
brown kid, my mother told me a story once when I was about 3 or 4 that I we were in the grocery store and we were in checkout line, and one of the kids looked at the parent and said, look, God left him in the oven too long, you know? And so everything was always based on the exterior. So I went, okay, well, for them to stop with racist jokes, what do you call a bunch of, Latin people holding hands, a spigot fence, to get that out of the way, what was stronger? And when you're growing up in Friday Night Lights kind of town,
Mm.
it's sports,
Right.
right? And so I achieved, and they looked past everything because, like, well, he's incredible, he's a prodigy, he's all this, he's all that. So transferring that into business was very easy. I ran, you know, t-shirt companies at the pep rallies, and then I'd take that money and then I'd go throw a party after the football game, and then I'd charge people to come into the football game to buy the cups for the keg. I mean, so it was always entrepreneurial, but I just parlayed that into getting into entertainment. I came out to LA to try to get a contract when they were starting the MLS, which is the
Mhm.
professional soccer league here, and left college early, but everyone thought I was nuts, and I just knew that I had to be different again. So I was always, I guess, in a way, without me knowing at the time, I was getting more and more comfortable being different and banging a different drum. Because to me, if there's a million people banging the same drum, why would I want to bang that same drum? In essence, you're following the other drummers. So I'd go like, okay, that's working. A million people are banging that drum and they're doing it. I look at the places where they aren't, and I go that direction, right? So I became this kind of paving the way kind of
Mm.
spirit, inside and out. Um, I mean, even my first movie that I did, I was 22 years old. I raised all the money myself. I wrote it, directed it, and produced it. I had offers from Miramax, and they wanted to buy it and get me and my other partner at the time out. We were repped by big agencies, and I was like, no, man, I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to do this a different way. I mean, it was even called Random Acts of Violence. So I played off of those words, random acts of kindness, as kind of a play on words. And I mean, just that title stood out. I mean, people hated it. You're glorifying violence. And we're going, no, actually, this is a true story based in LA. And this is the stupid stuff that rich kids do in LA that people don't know. And we're going to talk about things that people don't talk about because you're all talking about the same thing. Right? And we want to talk about something fresh. We want to talk about things people don't want to talk about. We want to do something people are doing. So we shot part of it in black and white. We got a French high-end, it's called the Blue camera. They made in France. And we shot 35 millimeter film, had it cut down so that it would fit a Super 8, and shot that in black and white because one of the kids in the movie is a film aficionado, wants to be a director. And it was based on a kid I knew, super rich, super loaded. And he would shoot all kinds of, he shot a short film on little people because he wanted to create a whole market for content based around little people. Spent 500 grand on a short because his parents are loaded, And so I wanted to tell a story like that. And it's okay if you don't like it, at least you're going to see me, right? Because it's about being noticed, right? So I just worked my way up, man. I worked for a lot of famous people. I worked for Tarantino, David Fincher, Joel Silver, the guy who did The Matrix. All this stuff. And I just sponged it up. I worked my booty off, because I was working my booty off, someone from Tarantino's company noticed. He was a big, powerful executive producer type. And he basically said, what do you want to do with your life? And I looked at him and said, I want to be the boss. And he said, okay, well, here's how you're going to do it. You're going to go over there and you're going to take that film. In the film, they called it a film vault, where they had short ends, where they would do these big shots, but they didn't want to risk that if they were doing a shot and it was working and the film would run out, they'd have to shoot it again. They'd cut it off and they call them short ends, and they'd store it, right? So they had a whole vault of all these short ends. You're going to go take that short end vault, and you're going to take our cameras, and you're going to go get $300 for insurance and cover that, and you're going to start shooting stuff because that's the only way you're going to get there. And they did.
I don't know a lot of what you just said, right? Because you went into some technical stuff. But the point is, and I did write down notes. Work hard, right? Be willing to screw it up, right? You then adjust. And if you keep doing that, doors open.
100%.
Right? Like,
stand out.
The success formula is the same no matter where you apply it. I keep reiterating that because it's just, there's no quick freaking fix. It's just work and be willing to fail and try new things and explore opportunities, and good things happen when you're in action.
Yeah, 100%. And, again, I think my personal, kind of angle on that is in the work, make the work quality, right? So you can do poor level of work and work your ass off and keep moving, right? But if you raise the quality of that work, it will get noticed, right? Because there's plenty of people who go, they might say back to us, well, I work hard and I don't get my shot, right? And so I learned that it's in the quality, not just the quantity of the work, that really it's that matching of it, right? So it's the quantity, but if you add quality to it, it can't be denied. It's just human nature, the way the mind works. When it sees quality, it will attach to it,
You just reminded me of something that I spoke on a couple of years ago. Proverbs 18:16 says, a man's gift opens doors for him and brings him before great men. And what you're talking about is your gift, right, is developed over time. And if you develop it over time, and develop means getting better, right? Producing better work, always looking for quality, right? And you grow, it makes room for you. It puts you in front of the right people. You are living proof of that proverb.
100%, because, that another quote from the Bible I love, tell me who you're with and I'll tell you who you are, right? So if you want to be around quality, you first have to be quality, right?
Right.
So how did I find my gift? Once you know the gift, then how do you polish it? How do you put it up on a pedestal so people can see it, right?
Mm,
And how do you make that gift look even more amazing and more amazing, and reevaluate yourself, measure self, so that you can find those small pieces. It's fine margins, man.
right.
It's tiny. Everyone's like, tell me the big shift, Jefferson. What was the big shift that made people go, oh, it was the culmination of these fine margins that looked like one big shift, right? And so,
Right. I mean, success is in the little things, right? It's these tiny little, I love it. I love the word margin. I love what you're talking about. It's these
yeah,
tiny little things, right, that we
yeah,
think don't matter, but that those are the things that matter.
yeah. One of the stumbling blocks that I, learned as a business person was, you can come up with these grandiose ideas and they're freaking beautiful, right? You're going, oh, that is a unicorn, and then I would try to hit that unicorn, and I try to hit that unicorn, I try to hit this pristine premier level of quality and work
Mm,
matched, right? And I learned a very interesting lesson that really changed my career was do what you can at the highest level first and then stretch what you can do.
mm,
So I would go and shoot these big 10-minute short films with very little, right? And people would go like, okay, well, the quality's not quite there, but I see what you're going for, right? So the adjustment, this small adjustment was like, I'm going to shoot something smaller, but do it at a super high level,
right.
right? Just it literally is just turning it upside down instead of something bigger, but can't really get there because I don't have enough resources or whatever. I flipped it and I said, okay, now I'm going to shoot something smaller and as at the highest level I could, and that's what changed it. Because people are going, I know this is only a 60-second product, but that is premier. I can just stretch that to 60 minutes,
Mm,
to an hour and a half,
right.
right? Rather than trying to do an hour and a half and doing it super thin.
Yeah, I learned. I know exactly what you're talking about. I learned that lesson running a men's conference. Right, we tried to get the unicorn, and we should have done it
Pour
smaller.
everything
But
in it.
yeah, I totally get that. I want to something else just because we're on the topic, and it happened today, and I have not been able to talk about it. So I'm going to talk about it here because
Yeah,
I want to. I think you would agree with it. Ed Milet talks about the power of one more, and
yeah,
I was in the gym today and they had the workout, right? And the workout, was tough. I completed it. It was conditioning
yeah,
and 40 minutes went by. So, it was a decent time. I was, it was challenging, but I left there going, all right, I'm finished a little earlier than normal. I'm fatigued, but I'm not going to walk out of here gassed. And I could be done. I did what everybody did, right? I did it. I tried to do it at a super high level and I was like, but I'm not satisfied. Like I
yeah,
want to be I don't want anything left in the tank when I walked out the door. So
yeah.
I looked at one of the trainers and I went, you got to give me something else, and they gave me something called the murder mile. And I got what I asked for, right? Like
You
the,
got
the
murdered.
tank was empty in the first half of the mile. But the point was, and I've been carrying that with me all day today
Yeah,
because it was one of those, you made a stick because I'm new there. You made a statement to everybody in there. But more importantly, I made a statement to myself that even though there's some things going on for me in my life personally right now that are a challenge, that I still can
yeah,
take that mindset, right? Find a win, right? And then you carry that throughout the day where you can go, all right, where are the other things? Where's the one more? Where's the, I can add more quality, right? Yeah, this is okay. But
right.
man, what if I did this and elevate my game even more? Like it's those little, like you're talking about, right? Maybe it's an extra 10 minutes in a workout that nobody gives a shit about, but you do, because
Yeah,
that's the thing that changes your game.
100%. Yeah, man. I mean, obviously we've chatted before. I'm spiritual, philosophical, even since a kid, what's the subconscious, but I'm a big Bruce Lee fan, right?
Mm,
And he has a great quote, right? I'm not afraid of the man with 10,000 punches. I'm afraid of the man with 1,000 one punch that does it 10,000 times.
mm,
And, there's so much power in that statement, because if you can do that one punch that well, you've already built the model. Oh, so one punch 10,000 times, I get that punch to a super high level. And then anything else I want to add, I do the same thing and get it to that level. Now I have all of it at that level. Right.
right. Right.
So, and what we all make that mistake is like, we go like, I just want to lift the whole thing. Right. Lift pieces, keep lifting the pieces individually as they match. Right. And then, some parts of my life are incredible, and parts of my life I'm still lifting to get it to the same tier. Right.
Right.
Some relationships are way better than others. Some I'm still lifting, some I'm still building. I'm still adding pieces. I'm still putting margins in, but I have that standard because I have ones that are like, it's like that. It's this one. This one sets the bar for me, and I'm going to keep moving everything up to get it, lined up. So yeah, man, I've seen it happen. And I lived with, I think we talked about this. I lived with monks in the mountains for about 3.5 months.
All right, let's share that story.
Off the grid. So I lived off the grid, right? I met them at a Starbucks. We chatted, and they're like, "Oh, you come to the temple, come to the temple." And I'm thinking, like, "Oh, it's like down the street." So we end up driving all the way in the mountains. I ride with them. I'm total strangers, right? I end up just staying there. No cell phone, no nothing. Right?
Wow.
Working on the gardens. It's like, 8 acres in the middle of the mountains with nothing, just these little pod buildings, right? So one day I'm looking around going, how can I be of value? I'm not a Buddhist. I don't go that way. I don't not go. I'm neutral, right?
Yeah.
So I tested myself. I'm like, I'm going to stay, and I'm going to see if I can do something with complete unselfishness, because I don't get anything out of this. I'm not doing it as a donation. I'm not doing it to get rewards. Everything's like, oh, it's exchange. It's an exchange. If I do this, I want this, right? I won't do that unless I know I'm getting this, right? So I wanted to see, like, is that true? So long story short, I look out, and the driveway made of dirt is, bad. And I watch all the parishioners come in, and their cars are bottoming out. So I get a rake for leaves, and I just go out and start raking the dirt. And I notice that there's all these rocks underneath the dirt, right? And that's why it's wobbly, right? So I'm like, okay, well, there's something here. I'll just get this rock, throw it out of the way, keep raking. After about 5 days of doing that by myself, all of a sudden the monks start coming out one at a time. Now there's 2 of us. Now there's 3 of us. Now there's 5 of us. And we're all raking. Some are using broken shovels, some, right? And so one day when we're doing it, I bring the wheelbarrow. Instead of throwing the rocks on the side, I'm like, let's wheel them away, because we could use them somewhere else, right? And they look and they're, oh, brilliant. They're from Japan and all over Asia, Thailand, Budapest. There's about 20 of them in this building. And I turn and look, and where I'm getting all these rocks and just throwing them in the wheelbarrow, the main monk is on his hands and knees, and he has a paintbrush that's dry, and he's getting each rock, and he's brushing it off, all the dirt and putting one rock at a time in the wheelbarrow. And I'm like, oh no, just throw them in here. And he goes, every rock matters. Find one detail. We ended up using thousands of those rocks once we got it all flat for all the flower beds across 8 acres.
Amazing.
And then planted stuff that wasn't there.
Yeah.
Because now there's flower beds with no flowers, just outlined, right? And so, I got something from that I didn't think I'd get, because I didn't go there for the exchange. I went there to give.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. Like, and here's the sad fact. in a busy, technologically distracting world,
Yeah.
how many moments do we miss that
There's
are those fine little margins, right?
one
Like
rock.
we're both, right? We're both
One
those
rock.
right? One rock moment. Gosh, that's just so good.
Because the
So good.
exchange that I got was in that.
Yep.
Because we predetermined the outcome, you know.
One of
So
the things that I have just in my prayer time that God is hammering me with
yeah,
is, and when life's comfortable and easy, right? You take a lot of it for granted. You take the mountain moments, or you take the momentum from the wave of life, right, for granted, right? Because you're like, okay, it's a big difference between paddling up the current versus, with the current.
I'm at the peak.
You're right, and I think God right now in this moment of my life is like, I need you to be present, number one, and tune out everything else. Focus in on
Yeah,
me and what I'm giving you today. And those moments, it's so powerful what you're talking about, right? It could be you're walking into the grocery store and who's around you. It could be anywhere.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And being very present and what's needed or what's necessary, who has a need, what can I give without the expectation to
yeah.
get, like I was walking in the parking lot of the grocery store, and this guy's, carrying his stuff, and he dropped something, and a lady from across the parking lot, like, don't bend over, I'll get it. And I was right there, and I'm like, no, 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 I'll get it. You know what I mean? Like, it's a little thing, right? But I think it's this understanding that truly what you put out there comes back, right? But it's
Mhm.
not the what am I getting back right now? It's just an understanding of, whenever that shows up, that shows up. But I know the more we put out, right, the universe has a way of
100%.
reciprocating.
Yeah, it's law. I
Right.
mean, you can rely on the law. Always. So yeah, I mean, in that, I think about it quite often, obviously, because I'm bringing it up with the monks. Is that imagine what I would have predetermined to be my exchange if I had put that in there and not been open and let the reflection be what it is, and just trust that giving always produces more good things. How
Mm,
can it not? It's
right.
it's an energy, it's a gesture, So before that, I would have said like, okay, I'll do it, but I want this, and then I think about it now and I go, gosh, I would have robbed God that opportunity to give me something I couldn't even have fathomed because I let Him decide what was the exchange.
Hmm.
And it was the one rock, you know, that one rock was part of the momentum of all these rocks that covered 8 acres of open land with nothing on it for gardens and for trees to be, put in circles, and all the circles. I went to the Home Depot that was like miles away, and I put glitter on the rocks outside the flower ground, so at night it would light up and
Hmm.
ricochet in the moonlight on just the circles, and it just led to so many things. And you think about it, you take out that one rock, and you go, "Gosh, it would have been something completely different."
Right. Right.
You know?
And we often, and I think it can be abused a lot. We often,
Yeah,
uh, um, we connect giving to financial. It's like the first thing we think, right? Oh, I got to give more, right? And everybody's thinking I got to give financially, right? But there's so much, it's so much deeper. And for a lot of times, right, it's giving of time, it's giving of
yeah,
effort, but it's giving of, um I don't know how to put it any better than, there's probably a better way to put this than, I'm giving the space in which creativity can grow, which breeds self-confidence to not need to be given to financially. I hope that came out properly. You know what I mean?
100%.
It's
Yeah,
so easy to just give, right? Oh, here's $1 or here's $20. But can you give the opportunity of space where somebody can actually grow, face their adversity, whatever, and
yeah,
change their life forever? Because that was the real opportunity that was handed to them.
yeah. Here, here. Yeah, it was well done. Yeah, I mean, you know, measures of form and forms of measure, right? We have all these things that we measure things, and of course, right, you're correct. The big form of measure that we measure things is financial, right? It's worth this much, it has this much value, and value is in perception, and it's also applicable based on the creator, the creative
Right.
person that you are,
Yeah.
So you can place value in many different ways if you value it yourself, and it'll amount to that when you give it, right? So I give advice to people all the time, and to me, it's it's valuable because I've been there, I've seen it, I've done it, I fall all the time, I've fallen hard, I've ended up with nothing and built my way back up, and multiple times I've you know again I was raised around a very difficult spirit that was very dark, and I learned how to measure things on my own because his solution was everything was that. Well, here's some money; it solves everything. It doesn't. I'd give you back. I mean, I know a very wealthy person that I've done business with, and the horrible thing is he lost his child on a jet ski accident,
Mm.
and at 14. And this man told me, and this is Forbes Executive of the Year 2 years in a row. So that tells you giant net worth. I'd give it all away to get him back. So if someone like that is telling you what the form of measure of money really has compared to the value of having his child back, what does that tell you really about money?
Right.
It's
What does
there.
it tell you about relationships? Right. The power of human connection.
You can't beat it, man.
Yeah.
You know,
It's funny that you say that. Not that, I mean, losing a child is absolutely tragic, but
yeah,
there was a documentary on Apple about
yeah.
the Bee Gees. I don't know if you saw that one,
No, I know which one you're talking about. I haven't seen
but
it.
the ending is, Barry Gibb. I laugh because I see Jimmy Fallon every time I say Barry Gibb now, right? But Barry Gibb said something really powerful. I mean, this is a Hall of Fame musician, and he
Yeah,
said, "I'd give every bit of it back if I could just have my brothers back."
yeah,
Like, and that's the power of what kind of life do you want to live? What kind of person what matters most?
yeah,
I've learned as of late, relationships and the ones we neglect are the ones, that are strained, like
yeah.
fix them because that is the true, um, that's really what life is about. Money comes, money goes, right? None of that crap really in the end matters. It's nice, right? But, and it's not fun when you don't have it, but that can't be the thing
No,
that drives you,
it
right?
won't
Like
ever be enough.
it'll never be. That's exactly right. Are you rich in the things? And maybe this is a good way to really wrap up our podcast. And I'll
Yeah.
ask you this: are we rich in the things that matter? And so I'm going to put you on the spot. What would you say are the things that matter?
Oh man, I would say, what I think every day, what I do with those thoughts, how I impact others and how they impact me. Um, was today better than it was yesterday?
Mm.
Did I do it all that I could today and walk away going, good, good? Sports was a big part of that, being a high profile athlete growing up as a kid and stuff. Um, did I leave it on the field? Was it everything I had? Was it the murder mile? You know, um, what do people? What would people say about me? We do this with our team at work, and at our company. What would people say about me if today was the last day?
Mm.
Positive and negative.
Right.
Look, you're always right, whatever you think it is. So, um, yeah, my love for my family, the people that are around me. I get to work with some of the most talented people. That matters to me because it tells me in the days that I feel down to keep looking up, even when you're down, because they wouldn't be here unless you had something, unless you were giving them something, unless they were receiving, unless that was worthwhile to them. So, yeah, I mean, we're meaning making machines, and I personally live my life every day like that. I make everything mean as much as possible because it does to me.
I love that. I love it. And thank you for being willing to be on the spot and answer that question.
Yeah, man, totally. I
Yeah.
love, the on the spot, because you don't have to pre-answer in your head. You just
Yeah. And I want to touch on something because I think you'd relate to it as well. There are those moments, because here we are talking about, empty the tank and all that. And did I give, all I could that day? And I think there are moments in life and there are days where you also have to recognize, I need to exercise some grace and self-care here. I may not have it in the tank to give, you know what I mean? Like, and being able to just say, that's not losing, right? That's not failing. That's recognizing, hey, I may need to back off today so that I can, right, replenish and refill to be available in those moments. I don't think we talk about that enough, right? Again, in where winning is on your phones, quote unquote winning is projected, you know what I mean? If you do this and you do this and buy this and all that, right? But meanwhile, that freaking person's probably, what are they like on their, I wish more people would talk about their bad days. It's one of the things I do like about LinkedIn, because people are a little bit more transparent on, right, the struggles. Like, hey, this may look like this, but here's where I was a week ago, I love that shit, because that's the stuff that people need to hear. It's not perfect. It's not,
No, and here, good on you, because definitely redirecting that, leaving it on the field towards yourself is way undervalued, and I think there's different forms of that, there's different forms of how do you do everything you can today. Part of that is towards yourself, so yeah, here, it's a good point.
Yeah, man. So, I always like to ask our guests, how would you like people, and how can they connect with you? How does our audience get to know you better?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not big on socials, but I'm on LinkedIn. Obviously, that's where we met. But I do like that platform the most. The shepherdstudios.com. It's iamashepherd.com.
Right. Hang on. We're going to put that on there.
Yeah. iamashepherd.com. But we're on Instagram. We just started our account.
I am a shepherd.
Yep.
S-H-E, spell that for me.
Yeah. SHEPHERD. iamashepherd.com. Even in that, every possible way that we can show who we are, we put that in front of ourselves, and, people might say, oh, wow, you really think highly of yourself. I think highly of my capabilities and what I want to push myself to try to achieve. And, so to call yourself a shepherd, sets the standard for yourself to go, what does that mean? How do you do that? How can I shepherd projects? How can I shepherd people? How can I shepherd money in a better way? How can I do all these things through my actions, not just my words, and, all that kind of stuff. So it was a challenge to ourselves,
Yeah. I just want to touch on something that you said. If we don't think highly of ourselves, who will? Right. And those that do recognize when another does. Everything else is small-minded.
Yeah. What do they say? You see the world as you are.
Correct. Right. Yeah. Agreed.
So if you're down, trust me, you're going to see a lot of down people,
Right. Right.
If you're up, these people who are up are going to see it,
Yeah, man.
And it may be a tough day, but they're going to go, I bet it's a tough day, but you're still up. That's good, man. You're like me,
Yep. Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
I mean, here I am looking at you, go, here's a guy who's up, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
No matter what.
And we got connected from someone, that, I mean, obviously we both respect, who's also, that kind of person that I just, that's what I love about connections. I love about LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 weeks ago, we didn't know each other, and here we are. Right.
Yeah.
And it's a pleasure to know you. It's a pleasure to have you on here. This was chock full of really great things. So I can't thank you enough.
I appreciate the opportunity. Appreciate the listeners, everybody who will sit through this and, listen to my whatever, hopefully it helps. If it helps one person, trust me, I'll go back and listen to myself and go, is that true? So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
challenging myself,
Yeah,
So,
man.
yeah,
Cool.
man. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate all the work you're doing, and
No, I
yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah, big up to Man Up, and you're carving a path, man.
Thank you, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to another episode of the Man Up Already podcast. We really do appreciate it. And I want to ask you to do a couple of things. Number one, subscribe to the podcast, whatever platform you're listening or viewing on. Subscribe to the podcast, right? Help us, right, continue to grow by joining the community, and also rate the podcast, rate the episode, right? Whatever platform you're on, you could leave a rating. Let us know your comments. Let us know your thoughts. If you can do that, we really do want your feedback. You could head on over to manupalready.com and check out our website. All the podcast episodes are on there as well. But also join our community. Sign up on our emailing list. We're going to get content out to you. There's also a free resource there for you when you do that. And pass it on. Pass on the podcast. Let people know, right, what we're up to, what we're about. Speak about it. If you're a podcast enthusiast, please share episodes. Tell people about what it is that we do. What we do here and what you like about it, and what you don't like about it, and that's okay as well, right? It's just getting the word out. And then finally, I want to thank a great sponsor of our podcast, Master Beef Jerky. Their slogan is bold flavor, tender bite. If you head on over to masterbeefjerky.com, they've got incredible flavors there. But if you put in the coupon code MUAP, you will get 20% off your order. I highly recommend you check them out. Master Beef Jerky, bold flavor, tender bite, and a great sponsor of the podcast. Until next time, thanks so much for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.